Okay, so guess we could begin the Q&A session. The first question that's on my list here is how to deal with Vedana always arising on my feet and legs, and also walking meditation. Kilesa arise in my mind even if I try not to think about it. Keep coming back. Well, one is I assume that questioner is in referring to Vedana, sort of thinking that it is unpleasant Vedana, but Vedana means just feeling, and can be pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling, neither painful nor pleasant, and 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 also there's always going to be Vedana of some sort. Every single moment of one's existence is necessarily accompanied by Vedana. Whether it's arising in one's feet or legs or walking meditation. I mean, there's always going to be some Vedana, some feeling tone to one's experience, so that and if there is a, say, unpleasant feeling arising, then that is, especially if arising in feet or legs, walking meditation, I assume that is like a bodily, say, referring to a bodily unpleasant feeling. And one of the things that the Buddha points to is that not to be complicating the feeling. Say one has an unpleasant physical sensation, and then not to be complicating it with an unpleasant mental sensation, which we do pretty regularly, but it's recognizing that is something that we are using to add to something, and that sense of and then even if one is experiencing an unpleasant feeling, physical sensation, as in this question, feet, legs, or walking meditation, which I assume has something to do with feet and legs, then perhaps investigating in terms of what is, is there some a contributing factor for that, say, unpleasant feeling to arise in terms of the that one's sitting, or a way that one is moving one's body, that is giving it a sense of discomfort or disease or cramping, that one is just trying to reflect and figure it out, because I think it is an assumption, and a pretty pretty deadly assumption to think that there's always going to be, or that somehow one should be feeling pleasant sensation all the time. My body should be comfortable. My body should, when I walk or sit, it should feel, I should experience pleasant feeling. And that unpleasant feeling is a sort of an aberration. It's not at all. There is this continuous mix, and and it is it tends to be the not liking of it. I don't like it. I don't want it. It shouldn't be this way, and that is to say we complicate it through our basically that is what the Buddha points to as vibhava tanha, the desire not to have, not to be, not to become, and that makes it agitating. What the Buddha points to as the second arrow in regards to feeling. We get shot with an arrow, that's going to be painful, and then we don't like it, don't want it, shouldn't be this way. Why is it always me? And then one is that just is the second arrow that we. It's like the going to buy one get one free sort of. And it so especially if you're getting those free bonuses, you might not be feeding the unpleasant one so much. So it's just learning to understand more clearly what we add to our experience, and but then also it doesn't mean that that one can't be doing some exercises or adjusting one's posture or adjusting one's way of walking or standing or sitting in order to make things more comfortable, because we are going to experience that feeling and unpleasant feeling or painful feeling can be oppressive if it's fairly constant, and so it's just using it as a point of reflection for more wisdom and discernment is an important aspect of how we use Vedana. So that's this sense of wisdom, discernment in terms of is holding what's the reaction in regards to Vedana, and then what are skillful ways of adapting to that, and how to adjust and learn from it, so that one isn't feeling overly oppressed, or this sense of, as they say, kilesa arising in the mind. It's this agitation. Learning how to be peaceful with whatever feeling there is, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And on a certain level, like the neutral feeling is even more important to understand, because we tend to drift. I mean, at least the painful feeling grabs our attention, and it's not a bad thing to have something to focus on. And usually where we really get lost and mindfulness and clear comprehension is with neutral feeling, and we're not attending skillfully enough or closely enough to. So this Vedana as a fundamental feeling tone of experience is important to be tuning into and learning from, whether it is pleasant, painful, or neutral. Okay, so next question. Venerable Paul, Ajahns, I'm so grateful that a weekly meditation group emerged from last year's retreat with you. This year we were set to retreat together again, but at the last moment my friend said they would be unable to prioritize the retreat. Your precious teachings guided me to pacify my mental turmoil and be inclusive, but what about next time? Should I rather go solo to deepen my sitting practice, or invite my dear friends again? Well, I mean, I think it's always, as Ajahn Amaro just talked about in his talk, that importance of spiritual friendships and having sitting groups and people that one can share one's practice with. That's really important, supportive, helpful, but if it doesn't happen, then you be willing to just, you have to not get caught in sort of disappointment or being upset, because one's got one's own practice to do, and yes, it's certainly nice to have friends, and it's good to make the effort to invite them, but one's own practice shouldn't be dependent. It's like, oh, my friends aren't going to practice, so I'm not going to bother. I can't. I'm so upset I can't practice. that's not it's not a helpful basis for one's ongoing stability and growth in the practice. It's helpful to be generous and inclusive and encouraging. To share one's spiritual journey, but the opportunity to not have to be looking out for people and making sure they're okay as well. I mean, that can be an obstacle to say to the meditation and practice as well. So it's just taking the situations as they arise and using them skillfully for practicing and learning and understanding one's own reactions, one's own strengths, one's own weaknesses, one's own kind of ways that the mind makes a stand or gets entangled in something. All of that is a basis for ongoing understanding and cultivation. And so that whether one is on one's own or whether one is with others, and the practice goes on and needs to go on. Question is, what book of suttas would you recommend to read after the Majjhima Nikaya? I'm on my second reading of Majjhima Nikaya, middle length sayings. Many thanks for all the teachings. One of the things that I like is the collection in the Buddha's words by Bhikkhu Bodhi. Of course, the Majjhima Nikaya translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi, the wisdom publications. In same, so of course, there's other collections from the suttas, but I particularly like that collection of in the Buddha's words because it's an overview of how the teachings fit into each other, so that there's for living a skillful lay life, for living in the world, for developing qualities of mindfulness and meditation, for teachings on the realization and understanding, so that you've got the overall umbrella, and that generally, and as you know from reading the Majjhima Nikaya, there's different themes come out, and Majjhima Nikaya is a great selection of discourses, but as you go through it, there isn't really a discernible theme and how it all fits into a bigger picture, and that's something that, like an anthology, like in the Buddha's words, is really helpful for, because Bhikkhu Bodhi is taking teachings and teachings from the discourses, from the suttas, and from all the different suttas, whether it's from the Majjhima Nikaya or from the Digha Nikaya, the long discourse, or the Samyutta Nikaya, the discourses on thematic presentation of teachings, or the Anguttara Nikaya, the ones that are arranged in a numerical fashion, and even, say, the Khuddaka Nikaya, which is a Nikaya on odds and ends kind of collection. And because there's great odds and ends of teachings, and so that to me, that's I would certainly recommend as a basis for furthering one's study, because it does help to have that sense of an overarching, how it all ties together. There's another, like a much older book, again, another anthology that was done by Nyanamoli, the life of the Buddha, and that probably a bit harder to track down. But that's a mostly from the sutta. Some of it's from the Vinaya, but it's well marked what its source is, and just a book of the references to the life of the Buddha, what was the arc of his life, which of course including the teachings and the purpose of the teaching. So sometimes these anthologies give a good and very helpful way of approaching the teachings. And the next question. Greetings, Venerable Ajahn. I have a practical question regarding mindfulness of breathing. After observing the breathing, this becomes more subtle. And then I observe the body. After that, in effect, the body becomes very tranquil. But after that, I don't know what to do next. I know the sutta says, I shall breathe experiencing rapture, but I sincerely don't understand what rapture in practice is. I feel very good at this moment, but I don't think these feelings are rapture. I also fear to grasp those feelings wrongly as rapture. So as a consequence, I cannot proceed further, and I continue contemplating the body for the rest of the meditation. So I ask you to clear any misunderstanding of the Dhamma. Thanks in advance. Well, there's a few things to consider in this question. And maybe the first one is to really strongly point out that the Buddha's instructions on mindfulness of breathing in the sutta are not necessarily a linear teaching, in the sense that I've got to go from step one, breathing in long, breathing out long, breathing in short, 2, 3, 4 around the body, and then I got to go to 5, experiencing rapture, and then I got to go from that on, and then if I don't get that say experience of rapture, then I can't go on because I haven't got that fifth one. Can't go on to 6 because 5 isn't done yet. It's not a linear teaching. I think that the nature of language, and to a certain degree, there is a logic to the sutta, in the sense of as the Buddha is using the map of the 4 foundations of mindfulness to teach or to instruct in the application of mindfulness of breathing, so that 4 foundations of mindfulness: body, feeling, objects of phenomena. And so that the next section after the body is feeling. And the Buddha introduces, say, rapture, piti, as the next step. But I don't think one needs to be locked into having to get that one. If that is not seeming to be clear or not, or it's not out of bounds to go on to something that is a bit more apparent to one, or interesting to one even. So that's a whether it's just sort of skipping over the whole section on feeling, or even the whole section on the mind, and jump into the last section and just go to experiencing impermanence. It's certainly, it's not out of bounds, and I think you have to recognize that, say, this instructions on mindfulness of breathing are you can approach it from anywhere, any place, and wherever it makes sense or wherever it is interesting, and one can, say, dive into that. So that I would encourage you to not consider it as a linear, sequential, absolute step-by-step template that one has to follow. And that being said, there's oftentimes, the Buddha does have a logic, and that logic is four foundations of mindfulness. And when the as the body becomes more tranquil, the breath becomes more subtle, then I think that is a good time to start exploring the more emotional and mental realm of our experience. And particularly as there is the breath becomes a bit more soft, maybe a little less discernible, but there's an ease to it, and there's a tranquility, an ease that the body is experiencing. The actual feeling that is that is a pleasant feeling. And there is there's probably a sense of the mind is a bit brighter, and there's a sense of an energy of mindfulness. The mindfulness is a bit more energetic. And that's why sometimes like rapture is really in English. I mean, it's quite both kind of quite an exciting word, and as if expressing really strong emotion, and then one can be sitting there quite peacefully and feeling quite good, and saying, "Oh, I guess I'm just not cut out to be a rapturous person." I can't do that. The word piti in Pali has a really huge range of manifestation, and that's where, like, in the and actually the Buddha himself doesn't really define it all that clearly at all. He just mentions it, and it's in the Visuddhimagga that it gets more description of what piti is, and that's what's translated as rapture. And it goes from, just a fairly ordinary, mundane feeling of exhilaration and a certain energizing of the and as I said in the question, I feel very good at this moment. But then once I don't think those feelings are rapture, and it's sort of like, if one is defining rapture or thinking rapture has to be this incredibly exalted and special feeling, then you're always going to come up short. But if it is if it's I feel good. Mind is feeling quite settled and tranquil. I'm at ease. It's pretty good, and it's there's an exhilaration that's there, and it's an energy as well. It's a good solid energy that is of well-being. That to me, that is piti, and how it the mind is encouraged by the practice of mindfulness and the ease that one is beginning to feel. So to me, that is within that category, that range of piti that the Buddha talks about. There is in the Visuddhimagga, there's a really great illustration that gives a bit more tangible sense of what that's like piti and sukha, happiness is in that say the Anapanasati Sutta, and what's the difference between, say, rapture or joy and happiness? And they give the story or give the illustration simile of a person who is walking in a wilderness area. They're kind of tired. They're running out of it's in a stretch of wilderness where there's no water, and it's kind of a desert or semi-desert area, so that one is kind of exposed and uncomfortable and tired, and one's not quite sure whether one's going to reach a place where it's safe and one can say refresh oneself, and then one sees a person who is they are kind of freshly dressed, they're looking fresh, and you say, is there a stopping place, a kind of an oasis nearby? I said, yes, it's not that far. It's just this. It's up there, and there's plenty of water to drink, water to bathe. There's food available. That's there, and the feeling that one would experience would be piti. I mean, so there's kind of there's some relief there. It's the mind is kind of joyful and lightness of being that one experiences, and then one continues one's journey. And then one arrives at the resting place, the oasis. One is able to quench one's thirst. One's able to bathe and clean up. One's able to eat, and the feeling that one experiences is happiness. It's more of physical ease. The rapture or piti is more of a mental joy, a mental exhilaration, mental feeling of freshness and possibility. And the sukha aspect is more of a through the whole body. Of course, the mind is at ease, but the body is at ease as well. So there's these words are are helpful to, they're pointing a certain experience, but it can be just that simple, sense of, oh wow, this my breath is settling down, the breathing becomes more subtle, the body's more tranquil. That feels really great. To me, that would be piti, and then to experiencing that feeling well-being. Of course, if one starts to grasp those feelings, either out of doubt or uncertainty, or out of projection of what it all means and how great a practitioner it is. I know, there's all those things that one can do, but that is just complicating a simple feeling that arises from one of having relaxed mentally and relaxed physically. So it is that mindfulness of breathing is not beyond the realm of our experience. It's not so. So it is learning how to approach it and hold it so that one is able to encourage oneself in practice and not to approach it with too much, or too much overanalyze things, and it gets complicated. Okay, next question. Dear Ajahns, does the Buddha speak to anxiety itself? How may we work with it in our practice? Thank you. Well, of course, I think 2,500 years ago in ancient India, I think people were capable of feeling anxious as well. And they were, and the Buddha, what the Buddha, say the language that the Buddha used, that could be, say, conceived of as say the English word anxiety, both in terms of like in the five hindrances, the uttujja kukucca, which is this wonderful onomatopoeic description of the mind of restlessness and remorse, is sometimes how it's translated. I'm trying to think. Restlessness and worry is another. So that the mind is anxious, and it'll have various objects, but I think that the actual feeling of say worry and restlessness is a fear-based mental state or mood or emotion, and that sense of fear. I mean, one of the things that I found very helpful I think for me, when I was early years or many years of practice or just living, the anxiety, fear, worry, those were kind of ever present, and that was my go-to option if I wanted to get myself out of any kind of feeling of well-being, and to go to anxiety and to worry or something. I could do that quite easily, and so that. And one thing that really helped for me was that sense of one that, say, like anxiety being, say from an Abhidhamma point, it is fear-based. So you just like that bring it back. This fear. And what is fear? Okay, fear is and what is that rooted in? Is in it's a moha condition, a delusion, in the sense of not seeing clearly, not understanding clearly, not recognizing the reality. There's a delusion going on of not seeing clearly. So then one responds out of fear, and of course, what is the antidote to delusion is knowledge or awareness or knowing clearly. And to me, the most direct way of bringing mindfulness and a clarity of knowing is through mindfulness of the body. Anxiety as a mental state is always going to spin on itself. It doesn't have, there's not much friction there, because you can always find something to be anxious and worried and fearful about. It has many possibilities. But bringing attention back into the body, and you've got a tangible way of experiencing the expression of that mental state, whether it's tightening or holding or that kind of restless agitation, but that generated by anxiousness and anxiety, and then just mindfulness of the body, relaxing with the body, releasing with the body, and that has a very direct result in dissipating the actual mental state and returning to a place of clarity and well-being and knowing. So that's to me, that's the working with it in practice is really coming back to mindfulness of the body, finding ways to recognize more clearly how these emotions are, and particular emotions of anxiety, are manifesting, expressing themselves, and then this feeling is unpleasant, it's uncomfortable, and I can relax it. I can see it, and then you tend to see it more clearly as well if you've got a bit of an anchor to be viewing that experience and that mood, that feeling. So that's I'd say how it's worked. Okay, today's last question. Question just came in, relates to Ajahn Amara's talk. Question: is it fair to say that, quote unquote, selfing and suffering fools are opposite ends the continuum Buddhists call becoming. Well, I'm not 100% sure what the question is asking, but but certainly the whole realm of becoming is just that movement of mind into, and it is grounded in self, of a perception of me, either trying to become, or the sense of not wanting, shouldn't be this way, I shouldn't be this way, right? And I don't want to have to deal with it. So that on the extreme end, yes, so this sort of very strong puffed up sense of self, which can take both kind of in the English sense, a conceited sense, overestimation of self, or a negative sense. I mean, that's selfing as well. When one buys into and invests in a negative self-perception, one that is a basis of becoming also. And then the other end of because that can be quite subtle to quite extreme, and then the sense of the sense of becoming in terms of not how one implements that in a social context, so how one navigates the world of other human beings and the different stances we either have sometimes take out of habit or conditioning or social convention or social pressure, and that is, it doesn't really matter whether it's from an internal basis or an external basis, just the sense of being, becoming, taking a stand on me as separate from the world around, and then all that, the attendant confusion and agitation and discontent that engenders. So that's the end of the questions for today. I'll leave it.